Good afternoon and welcome to our first virtual workshop series, Job Search Jumpstart with Dr. Kasandrea Sereno. I will be recording this event so we can share also with other students. I want to welcome you all and do a brief introduction of Dr. Sereno. We have a personal connection. I had the wonderful opportunity to see her present at a conference in Ireland, and we were so excited to be able to have her come a couple years ago after that conference to present to our students and now to collaborate again in this exciting series. So Dr. Sereno is the owner of My Advisor Says college consulting company, and she works with students, helping them get into college and also doing some individual advising and career counseling. This will be the first of a 5-part series where we are going to cover a lot of amazing terrain. The next one will be on October 14th, and then October 30th, November 11th, and December 4th. And reminders will go out to the students of all the parts of the series. So Dr. Sereno, we are so excited to have you here. Welcome aboard.
Hi, everybody. I am super excited to get to chat with you today and talk about one of my favorite topics, which is getting college students ready for the job market. I think as colleges, this is some of our most important work, and I'm really excited to chat with you guys today. And like she was mentioning, my name is Kasandrea Sereno, and I own a company called My Advisor Says, and we help students not only get into college, but handle academic exploration, career counseling. We do a little bit of all of that. And so I'm really excited to share this presentation with you today. Let's see, let's go in here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you can see my presentation. Are you guys good on that side? We can see everything. Fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let me pull up chat here. Okay.
Hello.
So, hi, everybody. Did we get somebody new jumping in?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, welcome, welcome. We're just getting started. Perfect timing.
Mm-hmm.
So Job Search Jumpstart, what does this mean? So this is going to be a 5-part series where we are going to discuss what it is that you need to know for your job search. I'm assuming everybody here would like to have a job at some point, right? Yes. And so this is kind of some inside secret tips and things that I share with my own students. And so we're going to have our first session today. Then we're going to have 4 follow-up sessions. So October 14th, we're going to talk about resumes. October 30th, we're going to talk about LinkedIn. November 11th, we're going to talk about building your online personal brand. And then December 4th, we're going to talk about taking it to the next level. So lots of things to look forward to in our next couple of sessions. But today we're going to talk about professionalism and the modern career. Does that sound good? Good for everybody? Everybody can hear? Excellent. So when we talk about professionalism, some of the definitions have changed. So for the students of you guys on the call, what do you think of when someone says professionalism? What does that look like to you? What images are coming up in your mind? Unmute yourself and chat with us.
A guy wearing a suit.
Guy wearing a suit. Yep. Mm-hmm. What else?
Talk professional.
Speaking a certain way. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Maybe not using slang.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Hey, oh, we got a new person. So the idea of what makes something professional, we internalize that from movies, from TV, from our parents, from what we've been told. And we kind of have that picture in our mind of a guy in a suit, right? And a lot of what you mentioned is what we're getting from, those old rules, but they don't really apply anymore, right? We still have those same outdated ideas, but when we're thinking about what a career is and what it looks like, it's not necessarily those things anymore, right? Tech guys go to work in jeans and work from their laptop on the beach, and they're making millions of dollars building platforms, right? So gone are the days where you have to wear a suit to an office to be, successful, right? This idea of success. It's also becoming more inclusive, right? So when we talk about this idea of, we think about a guy in a suit, are we also thinking about a woman running a company? Are we thinking about people of color and seeing them in our advertisements, seeing them in taking CEO positions, board member positions, starting companies? We're starting to see more transparency in this process. And this is a complete shift from even, 20 years ago. If you watch shows from the 90s and you look at, the characters that are considered successful versus the shows that you're going to look at today, there's much more inclusivity. And so this idea of what is professional needs to shift along with that, right? So if we know that things are shifting and things are changing, we've probably got also some rules and some advice that have been changing. So can you tell me about some rules or some advice that you've been given, maybe about jobs or job searching or being successful or being professional? What have you heard? What have people told you up until this point? For you guys on the call, give us your feedback. What are some rules? Maybe advice from parents, teachers. What have you heard? Has anybody been told to pick a safe career? That you should pick a safe major? You guys hear me? Yeah. Anybody been told that you should stay at a job for a while, right? Don't job hop.
Yeah.
You heard that? Right? So have you heard, that maybe you should stay at that job for 1 or 2 years to be able to list it on your resume? What about keep your head down and do what the boss says, right? Don't bring problems. Be loyal to your company and they're going to be loyal to you. Have you heard that? Yeah. So this was actually, I'm sorry, go ahead. Good. Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. So this was actually a real big contributing factor to the recession that happened in 2008. We had workers who were told this sort of outdated advice: keep your head down, stay loyal to your company, status quo, stay there, don't worry about jumping. And companies were complacent when things were going well. This is business as usual. We don't have to innovate. Let's just keep going full steam ahead. And when they weren't innovating. And so when the market started to shift, companies started laying off people. And who did they start with? The people who'd been there for a long time, worked their way up and had really high salaries, right? And so these people had been loyal to their company, but their company, it turned out, had no loyalty to them, right? A company's job is, their fealty is to their bottom line. And so they needed to recoup that revenue. Those people were getting laid off. And now these workers are on the job market and their skills are stale. They haven't done a different job in 10, 15, 20 years. They haven't used new software because their company never innovated. They've never worked on new projects in, a decade or more. And so they had a really hard time finding a job in the recession because they were their skills were stale. And so you heard about people taking, 1, 2, 3 years to find a job. It was awful in the mid 2000s. And so those were those outdated rules. And so they were getting leapfrogged by people who had taken shorter jobs, but had multiple opportunities to work for companies and try out different projects. Their resumes were stacked. And so these people who had worked for their same company for 10 or 15 years and never had anything new were getting outshined by these people who had had shorter positions, but have had a lot more experience on their resume. And so that don't job hop is definitely an outdated one. Let's talk about this picking a safe career. Have you guys heard that? We got to pick a safe major, go into nursing because it's stable. Yep. So we've heard that. In Tampa, for example, right? So we hear a lot about nursing. In Tampa, for example, we have 5 or 6 colleges that have nursing programs. And in Tampa, every year, they graduate about 500 new nurses. Now, Tampa's a big city, but we don't need 500 new nurses every single year in Tampa. So where are those people going? Where are they going for work afterwards? And that's another part of the puzzle that we're not hearing about, right? What happens once you get through school and you've gotten this safe degree, this safe job? What are we doing after that? We don't hear about that part. What about the rule, you shouldn't mix your business and your personal life, right? Lock down your social media, make sure everything is set on private so employers can't see it. Have you heard that? You can post in chat if you don't want to speak out loud, that's okay too. But is that one that you've heard? That companies are looking for this and so you should put it on private?
No.
No, haven't heard that one?
Mm-mm.
So this is another one, did you know that employers were looking at this stuff? That they were Googling you and seeing what comes up. What are you putting on Facebook? And what are you putting on Twitter, right? Employers are looking at that stuff. Labor and discrimination law has not caught up with the technology yet. And this is sort of a gray area as to whether employers are allowed to look and what they can do with the information that they find. And so there is some truth to this, but we're going to talk about ways that you can use your online social life to work for you in your job market. So this one's kind of a gray area sort of rule. Also, have you heard all you need is a college degree, right? That's going to be your entry level. You're going to be set for life once you get this college degree. Have you heard that? Yep. So they told me this too, right? I grew up in a trailer park. And so they were like, when you go to college, you're going to get a great job and you're going to be successful. Well, I have 4 college degrees now, and sometimes it's still a struggle. And so that college degree isn't that magic bullet that it used to be, right? A lot more people have college degrees nowadays. And so we've got to look at different additional ways to stand out. What does this look like? Right? So the days where you were going to go to work for one company, work for them for 30 years, get a gold watch, retire with a pension, those days are gone, right? You're probably not going to find companies that are doing that anymore. You are very likely going to have multiple careers. You're going to have dozens of jobs over the course of your lifetime. We are preparing you in college now to work at companies that haven't been founded yet, using technology that hasn't been invented yet. And you're doing jobs that currently don't exist right now. So I graduated college in 2005 with my business degree, and we had just gotten Facebook. When I graduated, none of the top 10 jobs of this year existed when I graduated college. Right? We didn't have apps. We didn't have iPhones. We didn't have mobile technology. Really fast internet was something you only got in certain places, maybe at your office. Laptops still weighed 15 pounds, right? And this is what I came into the job market with when I graduated college. And so the idea that you are preparing to have one career isn't really the logical scenario anymore. What does that look like? So there's this great article, and we'll pop the link here in chat, that talks about your career and what we can expect for you to have over the course of your lifetime. Okay, so in your career, this article was posted in 2013, but a lot of the numbers have held true in what they were looking at. We're looking at, first of all, you're probably going to work longer than any other generation before you. How many of you are seeing, the older folks who are Walmart greeters or cashiers at your grocery store? Are you seeing them? Yep. Why are they staying in the job market, right? It used to be that you retired at maybe 60 or 65, but they're staying in the job market because they can't afford to retire, or they can't afford to not have company health care. And so the days where you could expect to comfortably retire in your 60s are probably not going to happen. We anticipate that folks in your generation are probably going to be retiring at 70 or later. The age to claim Social Security is moving up as well. And we know that Social Security isn't going to be enough for your generation to live on as well. Also, folks just don't have a whole lot in retirement or savings. So for you guys who are in college, do you have an IRA or a 401k?
No.
Do you have one of those yet? Nope,
Mm-mm.
not yet. But we need to start as early as possible. And we know that, but how do we even get started? How are we saving for retirement? We're living longer. We need our money to live longer with us. We also know that the average young person stays at their job roughly less than 3 years, sometimes a lot less, sometimes a little bit more, but we are seeing more mobility in the job market. We're seeing companies rise, we're seeing companies fall, new companies being founded, older companies going under, right? If you'd have told me when I was in college that we weren't going to have Blockbuster anymore, and I would have said you were crazy, right? We're going to get movies in the mail. That's ridiculous. Like, well, I don't want to wait 3 days to get a movie in the mail, but we have Netflix now and we don't have Blockbuster, right? And so companies are going to rise and fall over the time. And so we can't expect those companies to stick around. So we know that job tenure is going a lot lower. Also, the rise of gig work, right? Who's heard of Uber or DoorDash or Lyft or Shipt, where you're getting your groceries sent to you, right? Do you know anybody who does those sort of gig work? Do you have friends who do that? Anybody?
No.
You
Mm-mm.
don't have anybody?
Yes.
You know anybody? You know some people who do that, right? So this idea is that we know that people have more than one job, but unlike our outdated career advice, they don't just have one job to buy new toys or to get in, a teenager getting a new car. They have multiple jobs to be able to make rent. And so we're seeing that in the new economy. Folks are needing multiple streams of income to be able to meet their basic needs. Are we seeing this from people that you know? Family, friends? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Right? We've heard the term side hustle, right? People might have a full-time job, but they might also have a weekend job or a side hustle that they're doing for money. And so we know that you're going to have multiple jobs over the course of what we're considering your career. The other issue is we also have an awful lot of humans on the planet. We have never had this many humans on the planet before, right? There's almost 7.5, almost 8 billion people, right? If we assume that half of those people are working age based on country and, standard of living and all of that, that's an awful lot of competition, right? We're competing against a lot of people in the job market for the same job. We've never had so many people with credentials before, right? So this idea that you're going to have, this college degree is going to be your magic bullet. Well, you can throw a rock now and hit multiple people who are unemployed with a college degree. And so that competition is really fierce. We're also not limited by geography anymore. And we saw this a lot with COVID and everybody moving to remote work. For example, I'm in Tampa and I own a company. My designer is in Indonesia and it works out great. I send him a project, I go to sleep, I wake up, it's done. He sends me notes, he goes to sleep, he wakes up, he's got feedback. And so it works out great. I'm not limited by the designers just in my hometown. I can work with any designer anywhere in the world. And so when companies have all of these options, right, the competition for jobs is incredibly high. And so this is something else that your generation is going to have to worry about. Really, all workers are worrying about it, but this is something that's really important for you guys to understand as well. So how are we going to stand out? Has anybody heard the idea that it's who you know, not what you know?
Yep.
You've heard that? Yes. Okay. Humans are social creatures. That's the way it's always been, right? We've always found our positions through networking as being sort of the golden coin of the realm. That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is how you met them. So in our presentation and over these next few sessions, this is what we're going to look at. How do I stand out among these 7.5 billion people so that I can get the job that I want in the industry that I'm most interested in, right? So we're going to talk more about your personal brand, right? Your artifacts, your resume, your LinkedIn, your personal website. Do you guys already have resumes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. How about a LinkedIn?
Yep.
Yes.
Got some LinkedIn? Awesome. How many of you have a personal website, a portfolio already?
Mm-mm. No.
All right, so we're gonna talk about those things. We're going to talk about your online reputation. When was the last time you Googled yourself? What comes up? Is it good, positive, wonderful content about you and work that you've done? Also, how to expand your professional network. How are you connecting with people in the industry that you want to be in? It's never been easier to find those people. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that we know this, the next step is to talk about careers, right? How many of you have heard the term when people say life is short, right? You've heard this? Yeah, life is short.
Yeah.
Life is also too long to go to a job that sucks, okay? If we assume that you're gonna have 50 years of a career and taking out weekends and maybe some couple of vacations, even though most Americans don't take vacations anymore, you're gonna have to get up and go to work for 2,500 individual Mondays of your life. Not just days of the week, but individual Mondays where you're going to have to get up and go to a job, right? It should be to something you actually enjoy doing it because you are literally trading your life for it. Does that make sense? Right?
Mhm.
We're not here to pay bills and die. That is not the purpose of our life, right? And so this concept that we're going to be working for the weekend, or you know that I'm just doing this job, I don't love it, but it pays my bills. That's an awful way to live. Why would you want to do that, right? And you hear this from your friends, your family. How many of you know someone who says, you know, they complain about having to get up and go to work on Monday? Have you heard that? Oh, I wish I didn't have to go to work.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've heard that, right? You're trading your life to do something that you don't want to do. Life is not meant to be lived like that, right? Now, you might have some people say they just want an easy job. They're going to do it for the money. And then, well, I'll have fun on the weekends, right? It's not a bad thing, but is that all you actually want, right? If I were to cut a pizza into 7 slices and I threw away 5 of them and only ate the last 2, you would think I was insane, right? Why did you just throw away 5/7 of a pizza? It's a perfectly good pizza. It's all equally wonderful. Why are you only going to eat 2 slices? That's what you're doing when you lock yourself into a career you don't want to go to, right? That's basically a jail sentence and they let you out on the weekends. That sounds awful. Don't do that. Why are we going to live our life that way? And so we have other choices, right? You get to choose what you're going to do with your career. And so this is something that I really want to stress to my students, that most people fall into a career. They find somebody who does a cool job. They meet somebody who volunteers somewhere that's really neat, or they have a family connection, maybe a parent or a sibling or somebody who works at a job. And that's kind of all that they know in their frame of reference. But there's way more out there as options for you. So ideally, when we're looking at jobs, and we're going to talk about jobs versus careers, we want to find something that you like, that you're good at, and that somebody will pay you for it, right? And ideally, we're going to be there in the middle. Now, you might find something you're good at and you love it, but it doesn't pay really well, right? You've heard that? How many of you have been talked out of jobs or majors because somebody in your family is worried about you not making any money? Right? Oh, you can't do that. You can't major in that. You'll never make any money, right? Something that you love and that's something that you pay well, but you're not good at it, right? I might want to be a basketball star, but I'm 5'4", so I'm not good at it, right? That's just going to be a dream. And you might have something you're good at and it pays well, but you don't love it, right? Now you're in that bucket of working for the weekend. So how are we going to find that sweet spot that's in the middle, right?
Mhm.
Do you guys have any ideas of where your sweet spot is? For any of you on the call? Have you found your sweet spot yet?
For me, I would like to learn how to, produce my music, because I'm really into music. So, and I
Okay.
sing. So, but
Fantastic.
I'm not really good at writing either. So I'd like to learn how to do that too.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else? What do you guys think? Is anybody in one of these other areas? You have a job right now, but you don't love it?
Yeah,
Yeah, what are you doing?
I do a machine operating job.
A what?
Machine operator.
Machine operator? So it's
Yeah.
fine, it pays the bills, but it's not firing you up,
No,
right? Can you see yourself doing that for the next 30 years?
no.
What do you want to do instead? Do you know?
I mean, I want to do what I went to school for.
Which is?
Working as a manager.
Awesome. Okay. So we've got an idea. We've got a plan. This is awesome. So if we look at these three circles, right? What am I good at? What do I love? And who's going to pay me for it? We can throw in a fourth circle and talk about what does the world need that I can provide, right? And so this concept is called ikigai. Has anybody ever heard of it?
No.
No. Okay. So this throws in this fourth circle and it says, what am I good at? What do I love? Who is going to pay me for it? And what does the world need? This idea of balance. What am I bringing to the human community that I'm trading my life for, right? And so if I'm good at something, and I love it, but the world doesn't really need it and I can't get paid for it, that might be my passion, right? That might be my hobby. I just love it. I'm so excited and fired up about it. Maybe I'm good at it and I get paid for it, so it's my profession. That's that working for the weekend guy. I can be paid for it. The world needs it. That's my vocation, right? So maybe that's being the machinist, a machine operator, right? It doesn't fire me up. I don't love it, but it pays the bills. I love it and the world needs it. That's my mission, right? Not necessarily good at it and I'm not being paid for it, but it's there, right? I'm excited about it. And if we can get the sweet spot in the middle, this ikigai, this is where the true magic happens. And we see these people, right? The Steve Jobs, the Tony Robbins, right? These people that are authentically living the truth, right? They're following what they're excited about and their lives look really, really great, right? It's not this idea that you have to find this, but this is kind of an ideal to strive by. So if we're looking at this concept, this ikigai, right, this reason for being, what does it look like when we're not there? So if I'm good at it and I love it, but the world doesn't need it, I'm satisfied, it's fine, but I'm not making a positive impact on the world, right? You might see a lot of these people who midlife crisis, right? They've been an accountant for 20 years, but they feel like they're not making society better. And so, you know, they turn 50, they buy a red car, they quit their job, they move overseas, right? They're trying to find their impact on the world, right? So that comes from this space here. Or maybe I'm being paid for this, I'm good at it, the world needs it, and I'm comfortable, but I feel really empty. I'm not fulfilled as a person. I'm not fulfilling my role in society. I'm not fired up about this. I'm comfortable, but I'm feeling empty. Do you know anybody in your life who you would say is in that area? Anybody? Do you know somebody who's in that, falling into that spot? Maybe I'm over here. The world needs me. I love it. I can get paid for it, but I'm not good at it. I'm excited, but I'm uncertain, right? This is sort of that growth area. I'm not good at it yet, right? I want to get into music producing. I know it's exciting. I know it's lucrative and I love it, but I'm not good at it yet. So I'm right here. I'm excited. Now, if I'm over here, right, I love it. I'm good at it. The world needs it. I'm delighted and I'm full, but I'm broke, right? How many of you know somebody who's in that area, right? A lot of teachers, a lot of people who are passionate about what they do, social workers. There are some industries that fall pretty well in that space. And so that's not a bad spot to be in if you can rectify this other side, right? And we don't want you to have 2 or 3 jobs to be able to make ends meet. We're not saying you have to be wealthy, but there is something to be said for not having to worry about car payments and rent and security that comes within that. And so we're searching for sort of this balance in all of these things. Does that make sense? We're still good with all of that? Okay. So when we're thinking about these things, we want to look at, you know, it's never been easier to find these sort of things. We have all this information at our fingertips right now, right? How many of you have, you know, changed your buying habits because of a company's perception or value, right? That you've seen a company and you don't like that company's values, and so you choose not to shop with them. Anybody had one of those experiences, be it a restaurant or a store or something like that? And so we have choices now. We have choices as a consumer, and we have choices as a job seeker to say, this is what is important to me. These are my values, and this is what I'm interested in. And this is what I'm going to put my time into. And that's completely socially acceptable. And you see it a lot more nowadays than you did even, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so we have options. When you're job searching, you're not just looking for someone to pay you money. You're looking for somewhere to put your professional home that you're going to feel good about working for, and that you're going to connect with this idea that you're putting out good work into the world. And if you're not, there's no reason to stay, right? We don't want to just get locked into a job that we don't feel good about going to every day, right? And so workers now are taking that into account, and it's become much more of a function of what they're willing to do, right? And companies are realizing that they need to be understanding this with their workers and their clients and their brand image, and it's becoming a real issue for them to manage, right? We're asking companies to do better. We're asking people to do better. And so what does that look like as a consumer, but also as a job seeker? Workers are demanding better from the organizations that they are participating in. And so that's another option that has come about with this generation, that prior generations really didn't have those options. They were much more limited by the companies in their area, near their hometown. Well, if you didn't like them, there was a couple of other employers, but that's it. And so now you guys have much more choices. So if we're looking at those choices and we add some other layers and some options in here, we're still looking at what you're good at. We're still looking at what will earn you money, what you love, and what the world needs. But think about how you might be able to get this balance even if you don't necessarily have that perfect job just yet. Okay? So if I'm up here, it earns me money, I'm good at it, this is my profession, this is my job I'm doing right now. This is that machinist job. I don't love it, but I'm here. We don't want to stay here. A lot of people, an awful lot of people, when they're striving for something, they quit when they're satisfied. Have you guys heard about this satisficing? Right? So if I'm trying to learn how to do something, I'm trying to learn a skill, I'm trying to get better at something, play an instrument, play a sport, I don't go until I'm amazing. I go until I'm good enough, and then I stop trying, right? We see this with maybe, let's say, walking, right? So as a child, you first crawled and then you walked, right? And then after a while, you got pretty decent at walking, right? Maybe you learned how to run. And then we didn't go beyond that, right? We didn't all become track stars and, you know, learn how to be the fastest person in the world. We got to where we were good enough, and it was good enough. Well, when we put this in terms of careers and occupations and hobbies and passions, and we look at how long it takes to go from a completely new person into learning how to be decent at it, right? There's this concept that it takes about 10,000 hours to get good at something. Have you heard that? The 10,000 hour rule. You got to put some time and effort into learning how to do anything. So in the time it takes me to go from totally zero, never played an instrument before in my life, to learning how to play the piano, that takes an awful long time. But the comparatively to go from pretty decent at playing piano to being great at playing piano is comparatively much shorter. Does that make sense? Right? So it took me a long time to get good compared to getting amazing is actually a really short amount of time. But most people stop at good. And so there's an excellent book that you can read called Good to Great, and it talks about this idea that we don't have great lives chiefly because we have good lives. And once it's fine, once it's decent, we stop pushing for that next piece, right? I have a house, it's not bad. I have a job, it's okay. I have a relationship, I guess I'll marry this person. Right? We've put all this time and effort into getting fine, and then we stop and we don't strive for great. But the ones that do strive for great, right? Those are the people that you've heard about, right? So let's say you're interested in music, you're a singer. How many people have told you, well, you can't make money at that, right? You'll never be successful. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Yep. You're not good enough, right? There's tons of singers that are out there. You're never going to be Taylor Swift. You're never going to be Adele, right? You've heard that, right?
Mhm.
Somebody has to be Taylor Swift. Somebody has to be Adele. Somebody has to be Aretha Franklin, right? We need
Yeah.
singers. We know that the music industry is always bringing on new singers, right?
Mhm.
But so who's to say that you won't be super successful, right? Now,
Mhm.
it's a level of effort, right? Yes, if you only go to good, you might be just right at good with a whole bunch of other people. But if you're willing and passionate enough to put in that extra amount of time, there's no reason to think you won't be great, right?
Mhm.
So where that is. The other part is we tend to listen to broke people. We don't take advice from broke people, right? There's an exchange. So there's this phrase that, you know, in the stock market, right? We don't take advice. We don't take stock advice from broke people. We don't want to take life advice from broken people, right? If that person isn't living their truth, isn't, you know, in a job that they amazingly love, then who are they to tell you that you can't do it, right? And a lot of times we listen to people who have no idea about the industry that we want to go into, who have no idea about our internal motivation, our drive, our characteristics, what we're bringing to the table. They're just parroting that conventional wisdom, those old, outdated rules, right?
Mhm.
So the people who tell you, well, you're never going to be a good singer, do they work in the music industry? Have
No.
they been a singing agent? Do they work for a music producer? No, probably not. They just know music because they listen to it. They have a radio,
Mhm.
right? And so there's this concept that humans in general aren't really good at figuring out what makes us happy. And also, we're not super good at encouraging other people in doing things that we ourselves are not comfortable in doing things. What do I mean by this? So here in Florida, right, we eat a lot of seafood, and we have crabs. So little pinchy guys, right? If you're going out crabbing and you catch a crab and you put a crab in a bucket, you have to have a lid on the bucket or the crab will get out, right? Little creepy guys, right? Little pinchers. Once you catch your second crab and you put your second crab in the bucket, you no longer need to put a lid on the bucket. Why is that? Do you know? Anybody ever been crabbing?
Mm-mm.
No? So one crab in a bucket will figure out how to get itself out. Two crabs in a bucket will tear each other down, trying to stop the other one from getting out of the bucket. Humans operate a lot the same way. And so, and it often comes from a place of fear, right? Family members, friends, random people on the street, they're going to tell you that you can't do something because that's internalized fear of their own. They probably had a dream that they also didn't chase, right? It's not out of any sense of maliciousness necessarily. It might be, you know, they might mean very well, right? This might be a parent or a sibling who's like, I'm just worried you're not going to be able to make rent and I don't want you to be hungry, right? It might come from a genuine place of love. But at the same time, you don't want to put extra crabs in your bucket. There's just no reason to do it, right? Who's to say you're not going to be that next amazing singer, right? You don't even have to be good to be a singer and be popular, right? We know lots of singers out there, right? Like, is Billie Eilish actually a singer? Like, I don't know. Britney Spears? People would tell you, you know, she's
Alicia Keys.
Right? So, you know, as far as true vocal ability, that doesn't necessarily play into it. And would you not be happier having tried to shoot for that dream and that goal? And if you don't get it, at least you know you did your best. But if you put in that time and effort, you're probably going to land somewhere and be okay because you're going to put in that opportunity in that time, right? You might be here and it's a good job. You're good at it. It earns you money. You love it. And that's okay, right? And then maybe you'll put in other opportunities to fulfill what the other pieces and achieve that balance, right? So you might have this good job, but you might find an opportunity for service. Maybe you're going to start coaching vocal lessons for kids. And that's going to be related to what you love, but it's going to feed your soul in another way. Does that make sense? So you've got these options for it. Maybe it's not your calling, but you can put that in your life experience so you're not just working for the weekend. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So far? Okay. So when we're talking about this idea of professionalism and sort of this new economy, this is kind of what we're talking about. Ideally, we don't want to just get you a job that gets you a paycheck, right? That's fine, but you're trading your life for this. So we want you to feel like you're building this career and sort of skill setness that's going to take you beyond just this first job that you're going to have after college, because you're going to have 25 to 30 jobs over the course of your lifetime. We saw that, right, in the numbers. And so you're going to find this first job. It's going to lead you into some experiences that are going to shape who you are and what you want, which is going to lead to your second, which is going to lead to your third, and it's going to lead to your fourth. And so we're not picking the jobs that you're going to have for the rest of your life. We're just picking the next one. And we're setting up you to go into an industry that you're going to have a bunch of different skills coming out of school, and you're going to use them in 1,000 different ways over the course of your career. Does that make sense? A lot of people jump into this and they get really stressed out, right? I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up, right? A lot of people feel that way. And it might not look like it because you see people on Instagram or Facebook and they have these really great lives and they're posting about how awesome things are. Most of the time, that's just a highlight reel, and it's not actually accurate, right? Nobody posts about their bad day. They always post about the good stuff when you're having a good hair day. And so there's an awful lot of people out there who are just faking it, right? They don't know what they want to be when they grow up any more than anybody else. They have fallen into something, it's fine, and they stayed there. And so don't have all this anxiety about this process, because it is a process. It's going to happen over time. You're not going to have all the answers figured out by the end of these sessions. You're probably not going to have them all figured out by the end of the year, by the end of college, and that's entirely okay. So if you can let go of that notion that you have to have it all figured out, this stuff will be a lot less stressful. Does that make sense? So good? Okay.
Yeah.
So looking at that. So homework for you guys for our next session. So because we're going to start talking about artifacts in our next couple of sessions, we need to get set up for what that means. How many of you have a professional email address that you only use for work? Not your school address, not your, cheer girl 2005, Yahoo account or whatever, right? But something that's a first name, last name at Gmail email address. So
I
we
do,
wanna, perfect. We want to have one of those, and we want to only use it for your professional stuff. Why is that? Because when you apply for jobs or you build your LinkedIn profile and someone reaches out to you, they message you about a position, you don't want it to get lost in all of the other millions of emails that you get. This is why I don't like putting your school email on your resume. We want to keep it separate. We want to keep it easy to find. So when you get an email into that email box, you know it's something that's important. And we really would like it to be very simple. Not a lot of characters, not a lot of numbers, that it fits nicely on your resume and on maybe your business cards. And so first name, last name is great. If that's taken, try maybe first name, middle initial, last name, first name, first initial, last name. You might need to play with it depending on how you spell your name and how many people have other Google Gmail names. But between now and our next session, create that professional email if you don't have one already. Also, you all said that you had a resume, which is fantastic. Make sure your resume is up to date, your current information on there. If you haven't put your current job, go ahead and do that. And I want you to save it as a PDF and send it from your new professional email address to both me and the TRIO office, because we're going to need these in our next session. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if it's ugly. That's okay. We're going to talk about resumes in our next session. So we're going to put that in there as well. Good on that? Okay. And then we're going to talk about some career options. So I've given you a lot of things to noodle on in our session today. And I have some questions for you on a Google Doc that I want you to think about before our next session. So they're in a Google Doc, super easy. Save it to your Google Drive because you'll have a Gmail account now. And we want to answer those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Perfect. So the Google Drive link is here in chat. So if you could click on that, it should pop up with some homework questions for you. Are we seeing those?
No.
It should be in chat.
I see them.
Yep. So we click on those. So these are some questions that I want you to think about. You can do them today. You can do them this weekend. But really give yourself some time to think about these questions. Now, that being said, you have to do this sort of self-job searching sort of thing on a day when you're happy about life. If you are stressed and you're grumpy and you haven't eaten or drinking any water, this isn't going to go well. You're just going to be super angry and salty about the process. This has to be on a day where the birds are singing, you've been on a beach, you've had ice cream and a nap, whatever reason, right? But you're in a really good positive frame of mind that you're able to really noodle on this and think about it. So I want you to think about, how do you want to feel at work every day, right? Are you interested in a career that's exciting? Do you see yourself outside? Do you want to wear a suit and a tie to the office every day? What are some skills and strengths that you're bringing to the table, right? Am I a good listener? Am I a good singer? Am I patient? Am I good at numbers, right? What are some skills and strengths that you're bringing to the table? If you can't list any, or you find out that it's hard to list some, ask your best friend, ask some people who know you really well what your strengths are. Humans are notoriously bad at knowing what we're good at. And especially for women, we're taught to minimize. We're taught to not own our strengths and our talents. And so sometimes trying to figure out what we're awesome at is really hard, and it feels sticky. It feels like we're bragging, and people don't like to do that. we need to get over that because you have skills and strengths and you are awesome at things, and we need to pull that out of you. So what are you awesome at? What are some experiences that you've had either at work or volunteer or at your maybe an internship that you've had that you've really liked? And it could be something super simple, right? Maybe you really enjoyed filing, right? You really liked putting organization into a system. Maybe you really enjoyed a job where you got to work outside with animals, right? Doesn't mean we're going to work outside with animals for the rest of our life, but we're trying to quantify and understand what about that job that I had did I actually enjoy about it? Big stuff, small stuff, put it all in there. And then also on the other side, what are some things that you never want to do ever again? Maybe you haven't done them yet, but you just know that that's not for you, right? If you faint at the sight of blood, right? Those are things that you want to know. Just as important it is to know the things that you like, it's just as important, if not more so, to know the things that you don't like, right? And so we can take things off the table. What makes your eyes light up? You know, when you're talking to somebody and they're talking about their favorite book or their favorite TV show, and they get really excited when they start talking, and they use their hands and they start talking really fast, and you can just tell that they're really passionate and excited about something. What is that for you? What does that look like? What do you get really excited to talk about? What topics? What excitement makes you really happy? What is most important to you in life? This one's hard, and it will feel awkward because we don't often ask ourselves these big questions. But what's important to you? Is it family? What does that look like for you? Does that look like I want to live close to my parents? Does that look like I call my grandma every day? Does that look like I want to work with my sibling at our family business, right? What's important to me? Is it important for me to be well liked? Is it important for me to have a lot of friends? Is it important for me to be around animals? Is it important for me to get enough sleep at night, right? Is it important for me to live somewhere warm where it doesn't snow? It could be trivial. That's entirely okay. Value is 100% perception. The value you place on something does not have to be justified to anyone else but yourself. What is important to you is important to you, and that is entirely okay. You are a human with thoughts and feelings and observations, and those are to be honored, right? I am terrified of snow. It's pretty. I don't think I could drive in it. I don't think I could live in it. It's not my thing, right? And so that's important to me. You guys, it might snow tomorrow and you're fine with it. You're like, totally got it. I got coats, I got mittens. I know what I'm doing, right? What's important to me is not what's important to you, and that's entirely okay. And then I want you to imagine your life a year from now. Where are you going to be? Where do you want to be? In 3 years, in 5 years, what do you want to be doing? Do you want to live in the same town? Do you want to move to Paris? Do you want to get a dog? Do you want to find love? Do you want to make $50,000 a year, right? Doesn't have to be realistic, but what do you want? If you don't have an idea of where you're going, then you don't have a roadmap. It's like trying to drive to California from New York, right? If I was going to try to do a road trip across the country, what am I going to do? I'm probably going to get a map, probably going to figure out where do I want to end up, and then look at a map, see what streets are going to get me there, what highways. I might fill up my car with some snacks. I might pack. I might go get an oil change right there. I'm going to do preparation, and I'm going to figure out my end goal and how am I going to get there. Planning life is absolutely no different. So if we want to know where we're going, we have to have that idea, right? Otherwise, we're just driving around and hoping we end up at Disney World. What usually happens for people that don't have a map is somewhere around the middle, you get lost in Kansas, right? And they get satisfied and they stay and they never make it to their Disney World trip. And then the last question is, what would you do if time and money were not an issue? And you've probably had people ask you this question before, and it seems really weird. And you're like, I don't know, I would sleep. All right, that's cool. Keep going. Think of more things, right? If there was no time or money that wasn't an issue, I would travel. I love meeting new people. I love trying new food. I love taking pictures. I love, seeing places I've never been before, right? The idea is not to be unrealistic with it, but the idea is to figure out what fires you up and where you find your true bliss. And then how can I use that in some way in my career, right? I love to meet new people. I've now met all of you, right? So this thing that I love to do and that I feel like I'm good at and that comes naturally to me manifests itself in my work a bunch of different ways, right? I love to travel. So this summer I got to visit 60 colleges as part of my road trip. And I got to see different places and go to places I'd never been and eat food I'd never eaten before. And I got to do that in my job because I made it happen, right? I manifested it in such a way that said, this is important to me. These are things that I'm interested in doing. And I'm going to look for opportunities to make that happen in my career and in my life. Does that make sense? Right? So if something that you would love to do if time and money weren't an issue, who's got one? Give me an example. What would you guys do? What about my singer? What would you do if time and money were no issue?
I do a lot.
Yeah, like what?
Uh,
Would you spend more time on your craft?
Yeah, and I'd like.
What about learning maybe
like
new instruments?
Yeah, and like writing and maybe going out more.
Going out? So
Doing
spending
more.
time with friends? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being more active,
Be more active. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this idea that if it's important to us, we will make time. Right? If we don't, we will make excuses. And so you have the same amount of time in the day as everyone else. And so, but we often misalign our priorities and we spend time chasing little things instead of putting in the things that make us happiest and that the must do's first. And then around that, doing the little things. So I know in my day job, if I jump online and get into my email first thing in the morning, I'm going to be on email all day long. My whole day is going to be consumed with all these little annoying things that I need to do. And I won't get any of my big tasks done. Life is the exact same way. So if we know that spending time singing and playing music makes you happy, then we should, at some point every day, spend time doing that, right? Because we know it's going to bring you happiness and joy. And what does that look like? Is that during your lunch break? Is that, where can I fit that in? Is that I'm going to get up 20 minutes earlier and do some yoga and be a little bit more active? If it's important to me and I know it's going to make me happy, then it's valuable enough to put it in your schedule. You determine your entire schedule. If someone else is determining your schedule for you, we need to switch that, right? You are the agent of your own career and your own life. And so if you're designing your day, is it making you happy? You're never going to get this day back ever again. It has spent and it is gone and it is over. Did you do something today that's going to move you forward towards your goals, even if that goal is to just be happy? That's a valuable goal in and of itself, right? If I would want to sleep more, am I carving out time to make sure that I need that for my own mental health, my own physical health, right? Sleeping is super important. No, but not as many people get it as enough as we need, right? And so putting those in there, it's also going to help us when we're thinking about careers that those things that are important to you manifest in such a way that it makes sense. So we're going to look at that. So answering these questions, we're going to think about these things. We're going to put them in that email I'm going to share the screen again so you guys can grab those email addresses. So you have your questions in the Google Doc, and you're going to send them from your new professional email address, or your professional email address if you already have one, along with your resume, and you're going to email it to me so I can start giving you some feedback, and you're going to copy the TRIO office so that they know you did your assignment.
So where do we do the resume? Do we create a new one, or
If you already have one, we can use the one you've got.
Uh-huh.
Just make sure it's current. Whatever you feel proud to put out there.
Oh, okay.
The better you make it now, the easier the next session will be.
Okay.
But totally up to you, because this is your artifact, right? Ideally, if
Mhm.
someone came up to you tomorrow and offered you your dream job and you needed to apply for it, you want to have that resume ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So that is what I have for you today. And we are great on time. We have plenty of time here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and bring us all back here into our chat skis. So if you guys want to come in here, feedback, what do you think? Did you learn anything today? Was it helpful to you? Was there anything that was new to you that you weren't expecting that you heard?
I have a question, Kasandrea.
Yeah.
In terms of the world changing, how much do you see, you talked about the nurses' mobility and the willingness to move, and how have you moved? What does it mean to really move and to uproot yourself, and how do you start over? And do you see that as being, because of technology, being something that the world will need, we will need less? What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so this one's really interesting. I still live in my hometown. So I have spent 38 years here in Tampa. I've gotten to, but I love to travel. I love to be in new places. And so I've had the opportunity to live in a couple of different places for a short amount of time. So I went to school in Nashville. I worked in Buffalo for a little bit. That's kind of where my terror for snow comes from. And everybody has to make those decisions of what is important for you in your own self, right? And so if you want to be in one place, you're going to be able to do that. You can make that important in your career. But also, if you want to step out of your comfort zone and move to somewhere else, you're going to have a ton of opportunity to do that in a way that wasn't possible for our parents or our grandparents' generation, right? You know, cars weren't the same, 50 years ago. We didn't have as much interstate highways. It wasn't as easy to get places. It wasn't as easy to just up and move and uproot your life as it was, back then. A lot of people lived and died within 30 miles of where they were born, right? As it said, but Jesus only went 3 miles from where he was born, right? It was just a really small opportunity for people. It wasn't really a normal thing for people to just move across the country. And now society has changed. If you woke up tomorrow and you wanted to become a shark wrangler and move to Australia, you could absolutely do that, right? It's completely socially acceptable. Women can do that job. You can get training to do it. You could sell everything you own, get on a plane. There is one, well, probably not now with COVID, but normally you could get on a plane and go to Australia and start that new job. And so the options are there if you want to take them. But that's where knowing what's important to you is going to come in handy. So that way you're not spinning your wheels or wasting your time on things that aren't going to make you happy, right? If you know you're happiest around family and your family lives in a particular area, then finding an opportunity in that area might be really important to you. But now also with COVID, we're learning that people can work remotely and be just as productive in ways that I don't think corporate world would have embraced a year ago. And so I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a lot of companies that, keep headquarters in very expensive cities like Chicago and New York and LA. We're going to see them embrace the worker in smaller areas, right? We all have internet. Our internet is getting better every day. Communities are investing in that. And so, being able to do your job in the area that you want to live in is going to be easier than ever, I think. What else? Did I say anything that surprised any of you guys today? Was there anything you weren't expecting to hear? You can unmute yourself if you want, or put on your camera if you'd like, Victoria or Steph or Joey.
I kind of liked the advice you gave, like more towards the end,
Yeah,
about like, how everybody had like the same amount of time in a
Mhm.
day.
you do. Now, some people have more hours in the day, right? If you're Beyonce, you're probably not doing your own laundry. You're probably not cooking your own food, right? And so you don't have as many of the same hours in the day as Beyonce has, right? If
Right.
you have staff, your day looks different, right? My Sunday afternoon is not lounging by the pool. It is, home chores and making sure I do laundry and all of that. But you do have the same amount of time as everyone else, and you should prioritize the things that make you happy,
Right.
right? Am I spending, is doom scrolling on Facebook for an hour a day? Could I use that time better to be more active and maybe do some yoga, or to work on my hobby and learn how to knit, right? Am I prioritizing what I want in my day and not just letting my day happen, right? Living it with intention.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a,
that's
it's
a
a
good
mindset
perspective.
shift, because as humans, we want to do what's easy, right? That's an evolutionary advantage. If it's easy, I'm probably not being hunted and I'm probably not going to die, right? We want to have easy. We want to have stasis in our life. But that's complacent, right? You're never going to grow from that space. If you were to try to map out how you spent every minute of your day, you'd find an awful lot of time in there that's not what you think you spend it on. We're
Right.
all busy, but we're not all as busy as we think we are. We make time for things that are important. Yeah. Do you guys feel confident in your homework assignment? Do you feel like you can answer those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It might feel weird because we don't often ask you to ideate this way, right? We don't often say, let's throw realistic out the window, right? But why not? What's the worst that happens? We have a few pleasant moments and we actually are happy about things. Get yourself some ice cream, get a nap, whatever it is that you need to do to make this happy for you. And so the TRIO office is going to also have this presentation. So for anybody who jumped in late, we are also recording it. So people are going to be able to watch this afterwards. And I hope that all of you guys will join us in the next session where we're going to talk about resumes and how to level them up. And why you're going to have multiple resumes. And we're going to talk about some old outdated resume advice that is still very rampant out there, and what we can ignore and what is actually still pretty useful in our job search. So before I let all of you guys go, is there any other questions while I'm here? Because we still have some time. We're doing great on time here. I'm gonna let it get awkward.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what do you think are, from the world as you have seen it changing and the advent of technology and the advent of gaming, in terms of what are some of those communication skills that the students will need to develop further? We forget how to connect, and what are some of
Yeah.
those that you see as becoming more relevant as the world evolves?
Definitely. Yeah. So I would say definitely the things that make us human. So being able to hold a conversation with folks, especially folks who don't look like us, sound like us, or are our same age, being able to communicate with others, being able to have that emotional maturity, right? So if we're having a bad day at work or we have a disagreement with a coworker, how are we approaching that conversation and managing it is going to be super important. Also, we've never really had 4 generations in the workforce at the same time. And so expectations are different, right? As a young person, I'm very used to speaking with my friends in a different way. I might text them very quickly. Our communication styles are different than the way that I might talk to my 65-year-old boss, right? And so they're going to expect different things from us. And it's not so much that you have to change who you are, but it's this idea that all communication is a performance in some way, right? We perform differently when we're in different situations. And how am I managing the situation so that I'm getting what I need out of it, right? We talk to our best friend differently than we talk to our grandmother, than we talk to our boss, than we talk to our significant other, right? We use different communication strategies all the time. And so knowing what those expectations are is a really big one, first and foremost. And then how are you managing your behavior in that situation? Because that's really all we can control, right? We can't make other people be nice to us. We can't control what other people do. We can only control how we react to those situations. But we also need to know those expectations. So, I want my students to know how to write a professional sounding email. Because that is still the language of professional communication, right? We talked about what it means to be professional. And so, letting my students know that you're, just like a letter you would write, there's got to be a greeting, there should be a salutation, there should be a sign off at the end. And so that email is going to look differently than a Facebook post. And, you don't need to sign your Facebook post, but you should put that in your email, right? Put your name in there. It doesn't hurt to be overly formal in a business setting, because especially for young people, if you think about this idea of what the media and people say about all young people, right? Oh, they're always texting, they don't have a strong work ethic. They're not interested in, putting in their time and their dues, right? These are misconceptions. These are things that people are painting you with these stereotypes in this broad brush. And we know that stereotypes are hurtful. And so when you know the expectations, it makes it a little bit easier to then rise yourself above those, right? Because your professional reputation is going to follow you over all of these things. And so your career counselors, your teachers are going to help you learn all of this stuff, and you're not going to know it right away. Somebody's going to have to teach you this stuff. And so we'll talk about those things as well in some of our other sessions, but those are really good questions. It's knowing how to play the game, right? And the game is changing, right? We are becoming more tolerant. We are becoming more transparent. We're becoming more inclusive. But there are still some stuffy things out there that we still have to understand. We're humans, right? Society and culture only changes so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Professionalism might not just be a white guy in a suit anymore, but there is still some vestiges of that. There's still, what does that look like? And how are we defining that for ourselves, right? We're getting to choose. We get to choose what, companies and restaurants we patronize. We get to choose what companies we work for and what's important to us and what our values and beliefs are and who we want to work with, right? You've got choices now that people 20, 30 years ago didn't have. Take advantage of them. You don't want to work with awful people.
You made a great point in there, and a question as we are researching this new world and researching possibilities for us and companies and things. What are some resources? What do you read? How do you become aware of whatever company? Am I going to sponsor? I am addicted to NPR, but what are your what are your sources where students can go and learn what a company is doing? How are they treating their employees? How are they even I think nowadays most of us are using an iPhone, and some of us with some trepidation, because some of those components, some of those parts could have been not so kosherly made. So
Yep.
So how do you, what are some of those things that you read that keep you abreast of all of these things?
Yeah, so I would say definitely do your research on these companies. It's never been easier to Google stock anyone or anything. And so first look at, that company's website, look at the press releases that they're putting out, look at what they're putting into the public face, right? What are they say? Who are they saying they are? And then we're going to fact check that, right? What are they putting out on social media? How are they responding to trends and politics and cultural shifts, right? Are they responding at all? Because that, engaging in the conversation tells you some things. Go on LinkedIn, find out who those senior people are, those HR managers, those senior executives, people who work for that company. It's very easy to find that information. And then look at what those people are posting. Right. Look at what they're putting out on social. Look at what articles they're sharing. What conversations are they engaging in? There's also a great website called Glassdoor. That's another one that's really good. It's got a lot of reviews on there. Now reviews you got to take with a grain of salt, right? Because you don't know the person who's posting them. You don't know the options behind it, what led to those situations. It's kind of like Rate My Professor, right? You either find really great reviews or really bad reviews. Who's going to spend their time to go on there and give those reviews? So you got to kind of take them with a grain of salt. But if hundreds of people are saying this is a bad company, there's smoke, there's fire, right? So it's a lot of researching and making those value judgments. You can also look up any publicly traded company has their financial reports. And so you can look at what company, what they're investing in. And so if that is important to you, so you can see, who those senior people are. Are they making political donations? Are they investing in companies that you believe in are doing good work? If a company is doing good work, it should be easy to find evidence of that good work, right? If this company is saying, oh, we support education and we're doing this, then there should probably be a lot of press releases and a lot of, you should be able to fact check that information. If you can't fact check it, that's probably a red flag, right? That's a company that says, they're not walking their talk. Or if a company says, we really value diversity, but then you look at their senior executive leadership and you're not seeing that diversity, right? Are they just saying it or are they living it? Are they, where are their hiring practices? Are they recruiting from diverse areas? Are they looking for students from all over, or are they just recruiting from one or two colleges? Right? These are things that are pretty easy to figure out with a little bit of Google stalking. Looking through LinkedIn, call them up, call up their HR department. You can always tell them you're a college student doing a project for class, you're researching this company and you want to talk to their HR department. Most students aren't willing to put that level of effort into it. And so it makes you look like a rock star when you do it. And if that company is someone that's going to align with your values and goals, you're going to know that by talking to people, right? It's going to be easy to find. And it's okay if that company isn't what you thought it was. And you're like, thought I was going to enjoy this. And, I'm really finding out some surprising things. Ideally, you want to know that before you work for a place, because you don't want to rely on that paycheck and then realize everyone you work with is horrible and you don't want to go back. Now you're stuck. Whereas if you'd have found that out before, you might not have just taken that job. You are shopping for an employer just as much as they're shopping for an employee. If that makes sense, right? You have power in that relationship. In those interviews, asking those questions. If it's important to you, it's important, and that's okay. That's why we need to know our personal values and what we find important, so that way we can translate that into that company, right? Is it important for me to work for, I want to work for a female-owned business. I want to work for, a company that's doing, good environmental things for the environment, right? that personal value proposition is entirely valid, and it's okay that that is my personal value proposition. And if I don't know what those values are, then I can't benchmark those companies and those opportunities. I don't know where I want to be. Does that make sense? That's what this is, sort of the foundation, the groundwork of being able to research companies, is first knowing, what am I looking for? What's important to me? As frivolous as that might be, right? It might be that, you know, I want a company that allows me to bring my dog to the office. If that's important to you, that's okay. That's a criteria. Yeah. Things that we don't think we can ask for, you can definitely ask for. What other questions do you guys have? Questions, comments, concerns, good stuff, bad stuff? Are we excited? Was this not super boring? I'm super glad you guys came and we got some students, so this is good. And we're going to record it. So anybody who's watching this replay afterwards, feel free. You've got my email address, message me directly. We'll get you caught up with all of those, and I'm excited to chat with you. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic. This is really interesting. I am so curious as to learning, because we know that the world is changing, and to really understand, also because we have seen the impact that the gig economy and their situation of those people working in those economies are struggling with. And
Yeah.
so how we are balancing the role of education is playing, the ability to find ways, and how even industry is dramatically changing.
Mm-hmm. That'll be an interesting one going forward, because I think as we're getting more comfortable with the idea of people having side hustles, it's almost like companies are okay with depressing the salaries because they know that you're going to have an additional job to make them up. And it's not staying current with housing prices, right? So the average employee in Tampa can't actually afford to buy a house in Tampa. And that is a problem, right? It is eventually going to get to a tipping point, and it's happened multiple times in our city, where that becomes a real issue for people. And so us as consumers and us as the labor force need to be able to step up and say, you know, we're not going to accept this, right? We're going to gravitate and we're going to patronize and work for those companies that put our interests at heart. And those companies that refuse to or don't, we're not going to engage with them. We as consumers actually have an awful lot of power, whether we believe it or not, to shift company culture and company practice. It has never been easier to impact a company's bottom line, right? We see this every day, right? We see these missteps that happen on Twitter, and then all of a sudden it becomes this viral moment. And we're holding our leaders and our CEOs and our companies more accountable than we ever have before. And so it's this idea that what you allow is what will continue. And so if we are willing to say that, no, we are not going to allow for this, we're going to hold our elected officials, we're going to hold our company leadership accountable for these things, we as the general population have the opportunity to do that. And if you don't like the company options, start your own, right? This idea that it's never been easier to start your own business and chase what makes you excited and fires you up. Start your own business. That's why I started mine. I was tired of being told to stay in my lane, and well, advisors don't need to worry about this, and you know, just do this, just handle these students. And I wanted to do more than that, so I started a company to do it. Right? It's never been easier, you know, to have internet and to have all of these opportunities. Why would we want to be limited?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we got a new person. Hi. Welcome.
a tiny bit about that starting a new company. How was that process for you? How did you, I mean, they seem to be connected with what you do, but it sounds fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So starting a company was really intimidating because I didn't know anybody who had done this before. So I don't have parents. I was in foster care. I bounced around with relatives, and so I didn't really have a lot of social network to rely on to have someone in my life who'd been a doctor or a lawyer or a business owner that I could go to and shadow. And so I had to find resources. And so most communities have a chamber of commerce or a small business association. Usually it's affiliated with a school, or you can just Google for it. But your local business chamber of commerce or small business association is there to help you start those businesses. And so I went to our one in Tampa, and they laid it out very easily. Here's the paperwork you need to file. You need to get a license. You need to get a tax ID number. You need to get a separate bank account. And they made the steps really easy to follow. And they also had the opportunity to connect with other entrepreneurs in my area, which was great. So I could ask them questions like marketing and employment and what do I need a logo? Where did you guys get your logo done? It really just opened my eyes to all the options that were out there. And so it was a struggle. It was an awful lot of work. I think whenever you're chasing something that's outside of what you're used to, you're going to have to put that time and effort into it. And so a lot of working that third shift on my own business, right? Spending my weekends, putting in time and effort and money into building something. And you learn as you go over time, right? I wasn't super successful for the first couple of years. I was still doing those multiple jobs and still working those gigs along with it. But over time, you get better at it. Over time, you figure out what works, what doesn't work, what you're interested in, what clients you're willing to work with and what clients you're not willing to work with. And you're going to hone those skills over time. And so it's definitely owning your own business, I would say, is not for everyone. It's something that you have to be deeply, deeply passionate about because it will eat your life. And there's no one to blame, right? But yourself. If I don't work today, then I don't eat tomorrow. Right. And so, I've got to always be that person. Because if I'm not sales and I'm not managed, right, if I'm not doing it, my business will suffer. But I like that because I know that if I work really hard, my rewards are unlimited, right? Whereas if I worked for a company, if I give it 50% or I get 100%, I still get my same salary. So working for myself, if I put in double the effort, I should get double the reward for it. So it's a challenge. I would say surround yourself with people who know more than you do. You never want to be the smartest person in a room. If you are, you're in the wrong room. You want to be around people who are going to help you level up and that are going to help you grow in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just shadowing, right? Even if it's just hanging out with someone and watching what they do, in pre-COVID era, what's it like to be in music management? What does a music manager do all day? What do they spend their Tuesdays doing? Jump on LinkedIn, find someone who has that job, offer to meet them for lunch, take them for coffee, and, ask to shadow. Obviously pre-COVID times right now is crazy. But it's just never been easier to find those people. And you can always tell them you're doing a project for school. You got to interview someone who's got your perfect job, right? Old people love to be asked for their opinion. If you were to call someone up out of the blue and say, I want to be you when I grow up, can you tell me how you got there? That's super flattering. Of course, they're going to want to meet with you. Of course, they're going to want to, be connected and say, yeah, come and see what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And maybe not everybody is going to take you up on it, but you only need one or two. And then you're going to meet them and you're going to have a great connection. You're going to ask good questions. You're going to be really prepared for it. And then from that one person, you're going to say, you know what, this was a great meeting. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else you can think of that it would be beneficial for me to talk to? and they're going to give you
Mhm.
some connections, and then you're going to repeat that process on down the line. You've got to make connections if you don't have them. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's hard. Sometimes, if you don't have friends or family, it's not easy to find those people that you want to be connected to. That's when you lean on the resources that you've got, right? Ask your counselor, ask your advisor, ask your trio folks. I want to meet someone who does this. How can I
Mhm.
find that person? Help me find that. Help me find this connection. You'd be surprised once you ask for what you want, the universe will usually provide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like what I like that you're saying all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's actually motivating me to do, what I actually want to do,
Because why not, right?
Mhm.
I don't think we get enough encouragement. We don't
Mhm.
tell our students to dream big. We tell them to dream safe. We tell them, the world is falling apart. It's literally on fire in places, and there's viruses and everything is bad, and you need to worry all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, life's always had crummy stuff happen. But what if it goes great? What if you spent time doing things that make you happy instead of doing things you had to do? You'd be surprised how much that changes your outlook on things. And you're going to college. You're going to get the same degree when you're done. You may as well take stuff that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because if you're happy, you're going to be better at it. Is sort of the secret sauce of it all. You could do something safe, and you could do something that you get through and that you don't necessarily like. You can force yourself to be good at it, but you'll always have that sort of limitation because you're not going to be willing to put that time and effort in. It's not going to make you happy. And I see this a lot with people my students who choose a major because someone in their family wanted them to choose it, right? Their mom said they should be a doctor, or their dad said they should be an attorney. And, your dad's an attorney and his grandfather, and they did all these things. And what usually happens is when that external validation source is no longer there, those students tend to struggle, and usually they'll quit. So I had a student who, her mom wanted her to be a doctor. And so she went all the way through. She did med school. She was a doctor, and she hated every single minute of it. And like a week after her mom passed away, she was like, I did it for her. I don't need to do it anymore. And she quit her job, walked away from medicine, and all of that time and effort to pursue something she was actually happy about. And you deserve that. You only get one life, and you have no idea at what point it's going to end. So why would you do something you don't want to do? Like, that's not the purpose of your one wild and crazy life. We are not here to pay bills and die. If you get nothing else from this session, I want you to take that home and know that we are not here to pay bills and die. You are more than just a cog in a wheel. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be, employed in an occupation that makes you feel like you left a mark on the world, in whatever that looks like, right? You're going to determine the value of that. If you want to, run an animal rescue, and that's what makes you happy and lights you up, then do it. And you're going to be the best at it because you'll love it, right? If you want to sing, make that happen. We need music in our life. And don't listen to people who tell you that you can't do it, because if they're not living their best life, and if they're broke, we don't listen to broke people, right? No crabs in your bucket. You deserve better. And I don't know if we tell our students that enough. You deserve to have a job and a career that you love, not just you go to because you have to make rent. That's not fair. So I know we got some new people, so I hope you guys get a chance to go back and watch the replay, because we covered a bunch of stuff that I think would be really useful to you guys. So definitely go back and look at that. Yeah, I'm loving this conversation. What else? What else, you guys? We still have a little bit of time, so I want to make sure that I am providing, what you guys want to talk about. Do you have any questions? Do you have any things you're worried about? How are things going right now? How's school going? I heard you guys got cold weather. That's terrifying today. it's in the 70s down here, which is basically winter for us. So it was super weird for us today.
It's
Yeah.
kind of cold, yeah, today.
Yeah, Anna was telling me it was like in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what my freezer is set at. Like I can't even compute that in my life. Like the outside world is that cold. Like that's just oh my goodness. Okay, so it's okay. Yeah, that 34 is terrifying. That like at some point today, water and ice will fall from the sky. I don't understand this life, you guys. I don't understand it. How do you drive in it? Terrifying.
We woke up to 38.
See, that would be. I would
One
be.
more question is, how do you maintain your own personal integrity in terms of maintaining your professionalism and who you are, maybe even physically, your style? There's so much discussion nowadays on hair, on tattoos, on and even how you approach the dress codes.
I think there's two schools of thought to this, right? I think definitely knowing the conventional wisdom and where people are coming from and sort of the playbook that they've had for the last 20 years is important to know, right? Because your industry might have expectations for you. But also at the same time, if we don't ask for change, it won't actually change. And so two schools of thought with this. A, you have to know what your value is and the value that you're willing to articulate, and also the options that you have out there, right? So you might be in a place right now in an occupation or a job where you can't be your true self, and that's okay, short term, right? So if you're not loving that job, if your boss is awful, or you feel like they're shaming you for the way you look or the way you dress or the way you present, then we want to take actionable steps to remove you from that situation, right? Life is too short to work with awful people, right? And so we need to know what those options are. I think we are seeing society really come around to understanding that ideal is not necessarily a white male ideal, right? The cisgender white male idea of what is professional, a guy in a three-piece suit. We're starting to realize that that's old and dumb, and that's not what society looks like anymore. And so we can have those changing expectations. Hey,
good. Sorry.
And being willing to understand, okay, yes, this is myself at my best. This is what I am to be, what professional looks like to me. And in my company and in my job, how much am I willing to trade off in that, right? So, for example, I want to work for somewhere that, let's say, I would want to work for somewhere where I could have my hair any color that I wanted, right? Or I could have, if I was a woman of color, that I could have my natural hairstyle would be validated and protected, right? And I wouldn't feel like I would need to change my culture or the way I dress to work for that company, right? I just wouldn't take that job. At the same time, I have to realize that there might be some expectations, right? In a normal day when I'm going in and meeting with students, I can't just wear yoga pants, right? I'm Dr. Sereno. I gotta dress the part sometimes and, wear the black slacks and a nice shirt because that's what's expected, right? I wanna show that respect for the other person and show them that their time is worth my time. And, I wanna bring that in there. And every industry is going to have different benchmarks, right? If you work in a creative industry, you might wear jeans and, a blazer that pushes up on the arms, and, you're going to have a different look than someone who's an investment banker. But times are changing, and people are rightfully pushing back on sort of what this idea looks like. And you have to walk in your own truth and decide what that value is for yourself. right? And so we're going to talk about online personas in one of our next sessions. But if you Google me, you will very likely figure out who I am as a person, what I'm interested in, and what my values are. And I have to know that while that is my value proposition that I'm putting out there, I'm not going to be friends with everyone, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to like you. That's just playground 101, right? Not every company is going to want to hire me. That's totally okay, right? I need to know that I set my own standards for that, right? And there are companies that wouldn't hire me, and there's companies I would never want to work for, right? So it's a two-way street, right? You shouldn't have to minimize who you are as a person to have an occupation or to have a job, right? Now, some jobs may not be open to you because of those things, right? It just depends. But times are changing, and I think, you know, it used to be you couldn't have tattoos in the professional workforce, and now a lot of my faculty have tattoos that are very visible when they lecture. So times change. Times change, people change, we become more tolerant. I think nobody's really wearing work pants anymore. We're all working from home in our yoga pants. And so, you know, things are changing, and I think COVID is shaking things up, and we're learning that the way we look doesn't really impact our professionalism and our work product, right? We're still getting just as much done, even though we're not wearing makeup and, you know, fancy suits and carrying a briefcase every day. I think that's a lesson that we're all learning, and that's good. We needed to learn that. I really hope we see that going forward, that flexibility and sort of this grace that we're giving people, to let them know, you know, we do have competing priorities. We have families, we have dogs, we have, you know, things going on in our lives that are important to us, and we are more than just our work. And we should demand that of our companies.
Mm-hmm. I like to say that currently right now I'm working at Amazon right now. Yeah, and it's not somewhere I want to be, you know, for a long time, you know, because, you know, they're I don't know how to
Because
say
you have your reasons and they are valid to you.
Yeah.
That is okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for that, ever. Right? Just like in a dating situation, you can decide who your heart wants to be with. You don't owe anyone an explanation for it. And a lot of times people around you will want explanations for, especially career stuff they don't understand. Well, why? Why don't you stay? It's a good job. It's secure. You don't owe them that. You're the steward of your own life. You get to choose. So what steps are we putting into place to get you out of that situation and into one that's going to make you happier? What can we do today to take one tiny step in that direction? Right? We might not quit your job today, but maybe we'll work on your resume.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll start Google stalking companies you want to work for. Maybe we'll start Google stalking music industry connections, right? Maybe we'll spend 5 minutes doing it, but we took one tiny step to move you forward.
Okay.
Because if you get 1% better every day, just 1%, just trying to, you know, one extra sit up, one extra jog, right? We took one extra stair, and 1% better every single day. At the end of the year, you're 365% better. And it adds up. Do it. Why not? If you have the opportunity to make tomorrow better than today is, for sure. Yeah. What you allow is what will continue. Yeah. Any other questions? I know, Leslie, you joined us a little bit late. Hey, Crystal's here. Wonderful. Cool. Anna, do you have anything on your side that we need to do for wrap up, or
No,
any of that?
I think I have the names of everyone. I will make sure that they have the slides and the questions and the
Perfect.
article. I'll send an email. The next session is on October 14th.
Mhm.
And we will send the reminder of the time. I think it's also again 12 to 2.
Mhm.
And so we will be excited to be ready to take on the next step. And if you have new questions or new things that come along the way, you can email Dr. Sereno, you can contact her, you can send us questions that we can send to her, whichever way feels better for you. We are just excited to have this series going, and there's so much to learn and so much to put in practice, and start that 1% every day. I might just do an extra yoga exercise every day.
Just one. Just one.
So,
And I don't know if it's repetitive, but I guess, I mean, when it comes to like your career and everything that you've been through, like, how have you, and maybe you haven't, but I guess, have you struggled with imposter syndrome along the way? And if you have, how have you been able to like shush it?
Yes. So imposter, I have found that is for everyone, right? And especially it is bad in the era of social media, because we are forced to compare ourselves constantly to other people. And it used to be that you would just compare yourself to the people in your immediate circle, the people you saw every day. But now on Facebook, I'm comparing myself to that chick who is from a high school 20 years ago, who we didn't get along. And she's perfect, right? She's a pharmacist. She's got a gorgeous husband, 2 kids. Her house is beautiful. And like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I live in an apartment, right? We have walked different paths. And so you'll catch yourself comparing yourself to other people, or more toxic is comparing yourself to where you think you should be. The expectation of, well, I'm 38, I should own a house by now. I'm 38, I should be a mom. I'm 38, I should be married. I should have, this mansion by the ocean. I wanted this by the time I was in my 30s. And the expectation that I'm not where I want to be is sometimes more painful than the comparison. And also, we have to realize that what's on the internet is not necessarily real, right? I don't know what's going on at her house. I don't know if her kids are horrible children. I don't know if she has a good marriage. I don't know if she's in bankruptcy and her mortgage is, going to be evicted. I know nothing about her life, right? And so I don't know any of that backstory. So that facade, that veneer is just an image, right? And I have to remember that her path is not my path. I struggle with it constantly. I think especially as a woman, we're taught to minimize. We're taught to, not make waves, that, you should listen to your elders and, just stay in your lane. I get told that constantly. I'm a kid so I grew up in a trailer park here in Florida. We didn't have running water. I was that poor stinky kid in elementary school. We did our back to school shopping at the thrift store. So I know what that is like. I spent time in foster care. I was adopted by relatives. I have lived in places I did not want to live. I have done jobs to be able to keep myself afloat. And I have to remember that just because I'm not where I want to be, I'm farther ahead than where I started. And so if I were to meet with a student and they were to tell me all of these things and tell me that they're not doing enough, I would for sure be like, no, of course not. Like, you're crazy. You're doing amazing. You're trying every day to build something new. Like, of course you're doing amazing work. If I would say that to my student, why am I uncomfortable saying that to myself? Right? We're often much harder on ourselves than we would be with anyone else in our life. And so when you think about, would I say this to one of my students or one of my colleagues or my best friend? Would I tell my best friend that she is not doing enough, that she needs to do more, that she really should have got up this morning and gone for a run because, she needs to get on it? No, I would never do that because I love her and I think that she's an amazing human being. Why is it okay to say that to myself? And so we first need to take care of ourselves first, and understand that the way we talk to ourselves is incredibly self-fulfilling, right? And take it with a grain of salt, right? You're not going to feel good every day. We don't always feel skinny every day. We don't always feel like we have a good hair day. We don't always feel like we're at our best, but we don't stay there. We don't stay in that moment, right? We use that moment of uncomfortableness to feel like, okay, why am I feeling this? What's triggering it? And how can I get myself out of this loop, right? Okay, I don't have a house. All right, well, that's cool because I like to travel. So understanding your triggers, but then also understanding how you can get out of it. Everyone has imposter syndrome. Some of the most wonderfully successful, amazing people I've ever met tell me that every day they think they're not doing enough. You just got to surround yourself with people who will build you up. And if you don't have someone, now you do. You get to text me. I'm really good at pep talks. Not so good at giving them to myself, but for students, I'm fantastic, right? Whoever that person is in your life that is not just giving you the sugar coating, right? That they're just not, they get paid to tell me that, right? Get that person in your life who knows you unconditionally and is still going to tell you that you're a badass and you're doing great things. Because you are. You've survived 100% of your bad days thus far. I have no reason to doubt that you would continue to be amazing going forward. And you'll be more amazing because you'll have more experience at it. Does that make sense? I don't think we tell our students that enough.
Mm-hmm.
You need someone to tell you good things. That's why we like those motivational accounts on Instagram, right? They're a little hollow, but we need that. You need someone in your life telling you look pretty and that you did you do something good today? There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. Everyone's an imposter. Everyone is just faking it. I mean, I have 4 college degrees, a doctorate from Vanderbilt, multiple companies, and I would tell you I don't feel like I'm confident in what I'm putting out. So yeah, everybody feels it. It's stupid. We should get over it, but it's really hard. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're right at time. So if you guys need anything, I put my email in the chat. That's directly just for this class. So it will not go anywhere else. It won't get buried in anything. Message me. I can't wait to see your resumes, and we'll chat on the 14th.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thanks, Kasandrea.
Fantastic. And I'm gonna send you that. You guys will send out the presentation and the links and everything, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna turn it back over to you guys so you can do your wrap up.